In honor of Heroes of Exandria releasing today, I've got all 20 characters right here in front of me, separated into 4 distinct tiers based on power level. I did originally actually have a 5th tier called the Wolf tier, and that was going to put an even 4 in each tier, but I couldn't fit Wolf onto the playmat and all of the other cards in a clean manner, and I thought, hey, that's a little rude, so I'll just put the Wolf characters in the Prove It tier. Prove It tier characters are, I don't think they're ever going to top cut a competitive event like a regional or worlds, nationals. Like once the competitive events get legit, 100 plus players, I don't think these characters are ever going to top cut. But if you don't believe me, and if you like one of these characters, prove me wrong. I'm more than willing to be proved wrong. I'll just be shocked if I am wrong. Then we got our fun tier. Go and win your locals with them. Sneaky tier. I could see them top cutting. I would be a little surprised, but also not too much. And then strong tier is these characters will absolutely top cut at some point of being legal. At some point over the next couple of years, if these characters don't top cut, I'll be shell shocked. Okay, let's start off from strong to weakest. The strongest character in Heroes of Exandria is none other than Grog Strongjaw, the mighty half giant. 5 hand size, 31 health. Every time we're not blocking an attack, we're reducing the damage we take by 2. Every time an attack deals damage, we're gaining a rage counter. We can turn in those rage counters for damage and to draw a card. So later on in games, we're going to play more like a 7 or 8 hand size character. All of our attacks are big, and we don't really play like we have 31 health. We play like we have 50 health. I mean, there's not much more to say. That's just good on face. We're also on some pretty good damage reduction symbols here with death, really death and earth specifically. So Grog, I think, is simultaneously the best character for a beginner to play in Heroes of Exandria because he's very forgiving. You're adding damage to your attacks, you're drawing cards, you're doing everything that's fun in Universus. And then I also think that he's a terrible experience for beginners to play into because he punishes you for playing the game. If you're just going to poke him, then he's going to benefit from that by getting rage counters, and it's going to feel like, man, I can just never kill him. By the way, guys, sometimes my camera's been doing this lately, and I don't know why. It pauses, and then it comes back. I'm just going to talk my way through it. Don't worry about it. If you know how to fix it, tell me in the comments, because I would really, really appreciate that. But we're going to power through. Hopefully it only happens a couple times. Okay, our second most powerful character in Heroes of Exandria, in my opinion, is Allura Viscerin. I don't really know how to pronounce it. 6 hand size, 28 health. We can response, commit Allura plus a foundation, and then seal an attack. Our next check to play a card gets +3. So it should be pretty easy to block that attack. That attack is sealed. It means it cannot gain abilities, and it loses all of its abilities. So it loses its blitzes, it loses its enhances, everything it's got on it, and it cannot gain them. That cannot gain them might matter if you're going against like a Krista, and they can't use that foundation that says discard a card to gain stun 1. That's a very, very powerful defensive ability. But then she also gets this enhance, and my camera came back here. Twice per turn, we can remove an action from our card pool and add the top card of our deck to our momentum. So this is a deck building cost because we want to be playing a lot of actions. That takes away from our attacks and foundation ratios. I've seen a lot of Allura decks playing like 10 actions, and even then, you're not seeing them super consistently. But getting that momentum is going to help Allura overcome not getting stats on face, right? We're going to want to cash in that momentum for some big, powerful attacks like Walk the Dog on Chaos, for example. Okay. Coming in at number 3. By the way, this character is a lot more complex than Grog and a lot more complex to build. I would be pretty surprised if an Allura top cut Denver, because Denver is so soon after release, and I don't think people are going to have the right build quite yet. I think it's going to take some time. But, you know, over the course of her legality, she's going to top cut at some point. Okay, this is annoying. It's happened 3 times already. Let's come back here, buddy. Because I got my third character here that I'll show once my camera comes back on. It is none other than my boy, Terrion Darrington, but let's call him Terry. 6 hand size, 31 health. We're removing momentum to build in assets. We can always build in a 1 difficulty asset for free. So like Cabal's Ruin, Gold Tips Imperial, Potato, those are all free to us. As soon as we have like 1 momentum, we can start building in things like Idun box or tattered costume, vertical maneuvering equipment. That's very, very good to be able to turbo build and turbo build selectively out of your discard pile, especially assets that typically have better abilities than foundations. Then we can commit an asset to get plus X or minus X speed. X equals the difficulty of the asset. So he cannot use the assets to pass checks. So he can struggle stringing out attacks. But they gave him Bedazzled Helm Blast, which has powerful 5 and gets a speed for every single asset. That ends up being like a 12 speed, 6 damage move with powerful 5. Dump a couple momentum into it, and hey, it's for your life. That's kind of a crazy attack. You also get things like Scrap Cannon for turning your assets into huge damage. You get Badgie on Order and Life, I believe. And Badgie, you just play and then immediately build down, and it's always going to be +3 or -3 speed. Also +3 damage when you like, or when your opponent wants to give it to you. So I think he's got the tools he needs right now to top cut. I'm not sure if it's going to happen in Denver, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think he's just going to get better and better as we go on. So my guy, Terrion Darrington, making it into the strong tier, which I think is funny because in the D&D campaign, he's like all talk, no walk. But in Universus, he's got some serious legs. He's legit, you know. He doesn't just have the fancy equipment. He's got some real legs. Okay, our last character in the strong tier. This one might surprise you if Terrion didn't already. I've got Not number 2, the Brave, Chaotic Meddler, 7 hand size, 21 in health. We got 3 abilities here, but the middle one is the one you really want to look at. Your attack gets plus X speed, X equals your momentum +1. So all of your attacks will always get 1 speed, but if you have 5 momentum, now they're all getting 6 speed. I really like how over the course of a game that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I like the scalability there. Enhance, your turn, your rival mills 2. If the milled cards share a card type, seal 1 rival foundation. I do think that there's something to be said with this mill game plan on Thieves. They have it pretty well, and the void symbol is already pretty good at mill. But we're getting to seal things. So we want lots of momentum. We can seal their stuff that stops the resets, and then we can cash in this momentum on some finishers. Oh my gosh, now I've got some lights in here that are flickering. All of my equipment is going. I think by the end of this, it's just going to be dark and everything's going to be black on the screen and you'll just hear me talking. But no matter what, I am doing this. I am finishing this. Response commit, spend a momentum. After you block an attack, it deals no damage. That's not going to come up a lot of times, but you have some built-in throw hate for all these throw grog lists that are going to be out there. You can play more mid blocks maybe than normal. What I also like about Not is that she can be pretty aggressive because the chaos symbol just gets momentum like crazy. So sometimes like as early as turn 2, if you're playing like some ultimate combination list, you can just send your whole stage into momentum, spend it, and then build it. Okay, I am like in a haunted house if you're looking at the lights going on behind me. Okay, the first character in the sneaky tier, a character that maybe could top cut Denver and give you a surprise. We have Vax'ildan, 6 hand size, 29 health. This attack gets X damage or minus X speed. X equals the number of cards in your card pool. Basically, he will never block on progressive. If he's filling his card pool with combined firepowers, then he's blocking on even less than progressive. And his damage scales the longer he goes on in the turn. And once again, with combined firepowers, that's not even counting towards progressive, and his damage scales very, very quickly. Response, after you play your 3rd weapon attack this turn, your rival discards a card, and you get to draw a card. So now you've seen a 7th card this turn, and your rival has to discard 1. So now your rival has to do some thinking. If you're going to force them to discard, then that puts a little more pressure on them to not block your early attacks because they need to hold a fistful of cards, because at the end of your attack strings is when you're hitting the hardest. And so if they're not blocking your early attacks, maybe you can just get some pokes through, build out, and have a pretty good advantage there. I think he's pretty good just on face. I think there's probably firepower builds here that can take him to the next tier. But I don't want to put characters that love firepower into the strong tier, because I think firepower always stands the chance, a pretty good chance of getting banned. And I want my strong tier characters to have a lot of staying power. So Vax'ildan, I'm going to put him in the sneaky tier. maybe he can find a way to top cut Denver. That draw being after the third weapon attack is a pretty significant cost. You'd much prefer to see more cards early in the turn because by the time you've played your third attack, you've already made a lot of decisions. You want to get as much draw as you can early before you make a lot of decisions. Okay, next up, another combined firepower character. We have Percy, the Vengeful Sharpshooter. 7 hand size, 20 health. We can remove a tech card from our discard pile and then get X speed. X equals the block modifier. This turns on combined firepower just on face, and then we can lose the health after we play a card. Each player commits a foundation. Every time we play a combined firepower, we have to commit a foundation. So I think this guy with firepower, I've seen some decks that can send out like 20 speed, 40 damage moves as early as turn 2 just by going crazy and combining firepower with Science Bros, something that I think a lot of the top aggro decks like Mirko 2 will be doing. So Percy, I could definitely see an aggro build going into Denver and making top cuts. But again, if you take away combined firepower, I think this guy almost falls into the prove it category. Maybe he falls down into the fun category, but he's definitely being propped up right now by firepower. Okay, next up in the sneaky tier, we have Caduceus. I don't know how to say it. Clay. Let's just call him Clay. 5 hand size, 34 health. I think this one might come as a pretty big shock, but I actually view this guy as very similar to Grog in the sense that he actually plays like a 50 health character. We can commit and gain 4 health, and all of our backups gain 2 stamina, and we're also giving big damage and we're drawing. So it's kind of similar to Grog in that sense. Once per turn, this attack gets X damage. X equals the number of backups plus 2. If it's 4 or greater, draw a card. And you can do this on defense too for minus X speed. X equals backups plus 2. So you can give like something minus 6 speed or one of your attacks plus 6 damage. So while Grog's doing it throughout the turn, Clay is choosing one attack on defense and on offense to do a major stat adjustment to, which I almost kind of like that more because you can pick and choose your spots. And when he gets really set up with backups, he gets to draw a card every single time. So then he's going to play like a 7-hander on offense and on defense. So I like Clay in that sense. Also with Grog, you have to, a lot of times you're going to want to be attacking his backups, which is also helping him. And so if you just poke into Clay and do a little bit of damage, he's going to be gaining 4, and then it feels bad to poke into him. I don't know. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Clay. Like everybody's saying Grog's great, and then putting Clay down in their like lower tiers, and I just don't see that. I like Clay here. Clay and Grog both kind of remind me of Recovery Girl, just in like play styles and how you play against them. Okay, next up we've got Keyleth. 7 hand size, 21 health. First form, we can commit a foundation to unflip a foundation. So we can play some very powerful flip abilities and keep recurring those. Once per turn, we can ready a foundation with a difficulty 1 or less. So on our turn, we can just ready whatever we committed. And then on our response here, we can, after an attack deals damage, our rival flips a foundation. So there's no stats here on Keyleth, but we have 4 symbols and we just have a lot of resource economy. Like over time, we'll have a more face-up stage than our rival, and we're always readying our resources. And we're a 7-hander, so we'll typically have more cards in hand than our rival. I think just over the course of the game, she gets better and better and better. But the no stats kind of holds her back from being in the strong tier. A lot of times, super strong characters, you see them having some major stat pump on face. Okay, so that does it for my sneaky characters. Let's jump into the fun tier. First up in the fun tier, we have Pumat Soul. 6 hand size, 28 health. Once per turn, we can remove a foundation to build an asset or backup from our hand. So on defense, we could use a card like Cape of No Return twice. We could remove it and then remove a foundation, build another cape, and remove it again. That's awesome. Response, once per turn, discard a card. After you play an attack card, choose one. EX3, your rival commits 2, draw 2. This also works when you play an attack card as a block, and so you can force your rival to commit 2 on block. Or just on your turn, on your first attack, you're going to discard a card to draw 2. So you went, you're playing like a 7-hander when you do that, but I understand that these are like costing you resources. So you don't get a lot of stats on face, and both of these abilities are pretty fairly costed. But I think they're very strong abilities. So that's why he's down here in the fun tier. I think it would take a really dedicated Pumat player to put in a top cuts performance. Okay, but he's the definition of fun to me. Next up, we've got Mollymawk Tea Leaf. 6 hand size, 28 health. Whenever we play a weapon attack, we can lose a health to give it a damage and stun 1. That's going to be pretty solid. We don't always have to be pressing that button. And then we have this response. Once per turn, we can reveal 2 cards from our hand. After an attack is played, seal a rival foundation for each card we reveal. And then our rival can destroy a face-up foundation to cancel this effect. So I like how we're taxing our opponent in a lot of different ways. We're either sealing your stage, causing you to blow up your stage, or we're stunning your stage. In the end, though, losing a health to get that ability and only getting 1 damage, I'm not sure it's quite enough to make a big difference. Okay, our third character is Caleb. Caleb Widogast. I don't know if I said that. Widogast. 6 hand size, 29 health. We can discard a spell card to add a different spell card with the same difficulty into our hand. So we can be very, very consistent on seeing the spells that we want to see. And then every time we play an action, our rival loses a health. If we've played this up to 3 times per turn. So once again, we're on a firepower symbol. Every time we play firepower, our rival's losing a health. That's very fun that can also kill them. But you're not super locked into firepower, but it would just take playing a lot of actions to be able to consistently use that. You want actions that you can recur the use and use it over and over again and just keep burning them. I think he's fun, grabbing whatever you want out of your discard pile consistently, playing actions, burning your rival, potentially killing them with burn. I think he could do something someday. Next up, our last character that I think could top cut a major event. Vexalia, Protector of the Wilds. 6 hand size, 29 health. We can build an ally asset or ally backup from our card pool. If it's our turn, we get to draw a card. Response, flip a foundation. After your ranged or weapon attack is not blocked, unflip a foundation. Okay, once again, no stats on face. We've got some fun things that we could do, like using Trinket for minus damage, then building back in Trinket so we can use it again, or using it for plus damage and building it in. I just don't think that we're going to be able to consistently find ally assets or ally backups enough. We also don't have the stats on face, and this response is good, but we're not, we're unflipping a foundation, but we're also having to flip a foundation to do it, and we have to have something not be blocked. I think this character has some very fun things she's doing, but just not quite enough to consistently beat meta decks. Okay, that's it for characters that can top cut major events. Let's go to the Prove It category. First up, we have Lady Kima of Vord, 5 hand size, 36 health. I'm going to go fast through these characters, by the way. We get to add an attack from our discard pile to our card pool. Our checks to play get +1, so basically it doesn't count towards progressive. And then we get this enhance. Our non-throw attack gets X damage. X equals half the preceding attack's difficulty, rounded up. So if you're only playing 5 diffs, then all of your attacks are getting 3 damage. If we stacked like an armbar in there, all of our attacks are getting 5 damage. That seems pretty good on face. Like everything's just hitting like a hammer. Is that what she's got there? A hammer? Okay, that makes sense then. Everything's hitting like a hammer, +5 damage, or whatever fun thing you're thinking of with that form. But they really didn't give her anything in this set that goes crazy with this form, at least that I saw. And that's a pretty niche ability, in my opinion. I could maybe see something someday, but no defense. Like she reminds me of Nomu, but you're lacking the powerful defense. So Lady Kima first. Next up, we have Scanlan, 5 hand size, 33 health. Once per turn, Tenacious. After you play an action card, build the top card of your deck, and then we can enhance Commit, and then reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a non-foundation card, then this attack has +4 or -4 speed, and you can add a non-attack card from your discard pile to your hand, and then if you're grabbing an action from your discard pile to your hand, you can build the top card of your deck. I think that being a commit on that response, I almost wish that response was once per turn so you could do it on offense and on defense. You have to play a ton of actions to make Scanlan work. I actually have a team member, Thomas Swafford, who put together a list where it was all actions. It actually had no foundations. It was pretty funny. 0 foundation Scanlan. I think it, not too bad, but at best, I think it's like a funny locals deck. I feel bad for Scanlan. He's a joke. I mean, I get he's the bard, right? So he's the comedic relief. And in Universus, he's also just the comedic relief. I don't know. Maybe he has some awesome moments in Critical Role that I don't know about. Pike, Trick Foot, 6 hand size, 29 health. Gain a health on your turn per attack. If this attack's damage is greater than printed, it gets +2 or -2 speed. +2 or -2 speed is not something that's so crazy of an ability that we need to have that on it, that if this attack's damage is greater than printed. I think this character is thoroughly outclassed by others. There's others that do this +2 or -2 better, and they're 7-handers instead of 6-handers. I think if you want to be somebody gaining health, you could just play Ymir and have a better time on the life and fire symbols. So Pike also suffers from a terrible sin, and that's called... Okay, now my camera's going in and out. I don't know what's going on. She's boring. And that's the unpardonable sin. You cannot be boring as a character. So Pike, I don't expect to ever make a top cuts. Although I think Pike would have made a great starter deck character, better than those 6 hand size, 22 healths characters that they put in the starter deck. I think they would have been better to put a character like Pike in there. Okay, let's go to our 4th character in the Prove It category, Yasha. I don't know how to say. 6 hand size, 29 health. If you take 3 or more damage from an attack, you get a rage counter. And then our attack gets X damage. X equals the number of rage counters +1. So we can start adding some big damage onto things. And then once per game, we can remove 6 counters. And our rival removes 2 cards from their hand. I really don't know why that needed to be once per game. That did not need to be once per game. It could be once per turn and be fine. That's a lot of counters that you're having to cash in. I mean, 6 times 3, right? That's 18. That's 18 damage minimum to get those rage counters, unless you're playing other abilities to get rage counters faster. But in the end, Yasha, you're just adding damage to things, right? You're not adding any speed. And it comes really late in the game where you're forcing your rival to remove cards from their hand. And then removing 2 cards from their hand. Draw is so free, and there's so much defensive draw available to characters that you can play around this pretty easily, in my opinion. We have people being able to play around Bakugo 4 as early as turn 2. So I don't see why Yasha would be better, and all we're doing is adding damage. Just block, Anyway, I have a teammate that really likes Yasha, but I think she's pretty bad. Okay, next up. Fjord, the Seas champion, 6 hand size, 28 health. We can commit to play a card with Spellbolt in its name from our discard pile as our next card this turn. And then we can Tenacious after a spell or weapon deals damage. We can seal a rival foundation. Our next thing gets 2 damage. He's not terrible on face. It's just that there's not that many cards with Spellbolt. There's only 4 Spellbolt options in the set. And I don't think any of them are crazy. And then you have to play them as your second attack after you play something else. If this guy wasn't this guy is hard locked into things that say Spellbolt. That's a very, very small box to be put into. So it's not like this character is going to be getting better, right? Unless there's a Critical Role set 2. I feel kind of bad. It's not just a keyword that's under supported. It's things that specifically say Spellbolt. Next up, we've got Beauregard Lionette. This is a character that I've been very low on ever since she was revealed. A lot of people have argued with me trying to say that, no, I'm just not seeing the light on this character. And listen, that's why it's called the Prove It tier. Show me. But I don't think that her support in the set was good enough to prove this character to me. We have to discard in the end, there's too many costs on this character is what it is. Discard a card, check a 6, add the top 2 cards of your deck. They're 3/3 mids, and they have kick, punch, and slam keywords. Add them to the attack stack. Commit a foundation. You're face up, kick, punch, or slam gets +1 damage for each attack on your stage. So not only are we having to discard an attack, not only are we having to check a 6, we're also having to commit a foundation to give stats, and our stats only go on face up, punch, kicks, or slams. So not even the cards that we got to put into our card pool. I think it's too heavy of costs that were put onto the character. Next up, we've got Jester, 7 hand size, 20 health. Twice per turn, we can add the top card of our discard pile to our hand and then discard a random card. If it's the same, it's +2 or -2. So the +2 or -2 has a pretty low odds of happening, but we're getting to hand sculpt. Like if we see a card that we want on top of our discard pile, we can press the button and chances are we'll get to keep that card. And then after a spell attack deals damage, we get to gain a health and ready a foundation that has not been readied this combat phase. So as long as we keep hitting people, we just get to keep readying and pass a long attack string as a 7-hander. I get that that's pretty good. It's just that +2 or -2 speed is going to be so inconsistent. And that's the only way we're giving stats with this character that I just don't see it. All right, our last character in Critical Role, we have Essek, 7 hand size, 19 health. Why they only gave this guy 19 health, even though he's terrible in my opinion, I will never, ever know. I'll wait for my camera to come back here. But it's not as bad as Moonfish, right? Moonfish got hit with 18 health. But why this guy has 19 and then a character like Rodan gets 21 just seems kind of absurd. Okay, so we get once per turn, Tenacious. Remove an action from our discard pile. After a player makes a check, they recheck. So we're not hurting their check in any way, we're just causing them to recheck. I guess if they played an ability that gives their next check like +X and then making them recheck would kind of hurt there. But we are having to remove an action from our discard pile. And then we can commit our spell attack gains Echo. Okay, that's cool. There's some very powerful spells that we can give Echo, but we still need to pay the momentum for them. We don't really have a lot of defense on face for being 19 health. So I don't see how this guy doesn't just get blown up. Yeah, I don't see it here. I don't see it. I don't doubt somebody could put together a list and maybe have some sauce. He does seem like a fun character. I just don't see it. So there you have it. That is all 20 characters coming out in Heroes of Exandria. And Grog, Allura, Terion, and Not are your strongest ones. I guarantee they'll make top cuts at some point during their legality. We've got Denver coming up in 1 week. I will not be there. I'm very sad to be missing the regional, but I'm looking forward to watching it. I will definitely be keeping up, and I can't wait to see these characters in action for the first time and how Heroes of Exandria shifts the meta. We also have, if you're watching this on the day of its release on Friday, March 7th, tomorrow on March 8th, we are having a tabletop simulator tournament called Ace Arena, hosted by Sam Tate with Ace Maneuvers. It's going to be 32 players, single elimination. He's giving away boxes of Heroes of Exandria to the top finishers. There's pretty dang good prizing for the event. I'm going to be participating in that, and I hope that you come and join too. It starts at 11 a.m. Central Time. Again, it's single elimination, so if you lose round 1, you didn't use too much of your Saturday. You don't have to have all the cards yet because it's on Tabletop Simulator. So go and join that. I highly, highly encourage it. I'll see you guys next time.